Most people believe that energy is something that happens to them. They say they feel tired, unmotivated, low, or drained, and they wait for the right feeling before taking action. This belief quietly weakens progress because it places control outside the self. In reality, energy is not a feeling you wait for, it is a choice you make. The moment you understand this, you regain control over your actions, your discipline, and your life direction. Energy follows decisions, not emotions. When you decide to move, to focus, to act with intensity, your body and mind respond accordingly. Waiting to feel energetic before starting work often leads to delay and regret. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates energy. Even on difficult days, choosing to show up, to move your body, to engage your mind immediately shifts your internal state. Energy is produced through action, not through comfort. The mind often lies to protect comfort. It uses fatigue, boredom, and lack of motivation as excuses to avoid effort. When you accept these excuses as truth, you surrender control. When you challenge them and act anyway, you train your nervous system to perform regardless of mood. Over time, this builds mental toughness and reliability. You become someone who can be counted on, not someone who depends on feelings. Physical posture, breathing, and movement are powerful tools for choosing energy. Standing upright, breathing deeply, and moving with purpose instantly is a strength to the brain. Slouch posture, shallow breathing, and inactivity reinforce low energy. By consciously controlling your body, you influence your mental state. Energy is not random. It is regulated through deliberate physical action. Your environment also plays a role in how easily you choose energy. A cluttered space, constant noise, and negative input drain mental strength. A clean, structured, and intentional environment supports focus and vitality. Choosing energy means designing your surroundings to encourage action, discipline, and clarity. This is not about comfort, but about alignment with purpose. Nutrition and rest support energy, but they do not replace choice. Even with perfect sleep and diet, without decisive action, energy fades. Likewise, even on less than ideal days, choosing movement, focus, and responsibility generates usable energy. High performers do not wait to feel ready. They create readiness through action. This habit separates consistent achievers from those who remain stuck. Emotional energy is also a choice. Holding on to resentment, comparison, and self-pity drains strength. Letting go, refocusing, and taking responsibility restores power. You may not control every situation, but you always control your response. Choosing where your emotional energy goes determines where you feel empowered or exhausted. Over time, choosing energy becomes identity. You stop asking how you feel and start asking what needs to be done. Discipline replaces motivation, and consistency replaces intensity. This does not make life easier, but it makes you stronger. You build trust with yourself because you know you will act regardless of mood. Ultimately, energy is a decision repeated daily. It is not about forcing happiness or ignoring fatigue, but about choosing responsibility over comfort. When you stop waiting for the right feeling and start choosing purposeful action, energy becomes reliable. Your progress accelerates, your confidence grows, and your life moves forward. Energy is not something you have, it is something you create through choice, action, and discipline every single day. Delay is one of the most silent and dangerous enemies of progress. It rarely announces itself as failure. Instead, it disguises itself as preparation, perfection, overthinking, or waiting for the right moment. Many people believe they are being careful or smart by delaying action, but in reality, delay slowly suffocates potential. Every dream, skill, and opportunity has a lifespan, and hesitation quietly shortens it. Potential is useless without execution. You can have talent, ideas, and ambition, but none of it matters if action is postponed. Delay turns ability into regret. The longer you wait, the heavier the mental burden becomes. Doubt grows, fear strengthens, and confidence weakens. What once felt exciting starts to feel overwhelming. Delay does not protect you from failure, it guarantees stagnation. The mind uses delay as a defense mechanism. It seeks comfort and avoids uncertainty. Waiting feels safe because action exposes you to judgment, mistakes, and responsibility. But comfort is expensive. Every day you delay, you reinforce the habit of avoidance. Over time, this habit shapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who acts and start seeing yourself as someone who plans, thinks, and waits. This identity quietly limits your future. Delay also steals momentum. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel confident before starting, but confidence only comes after action. When you delay, you miss the chance to learn, adjust, and improve. Progress is built through movement, not perfect planning. Even imperfect action moves you forward, while delay keeps you trapped in the same mental loop. Opportunities are time-sensitive. Windows open and close constantly, often without warning. Delay makes you blind to these moments. While you hesitate, someone else moves. While you overthink, circumstances change. By the time you feel ready, it may be gone. Delay does not freeze time, it allows life to move on without you. Delay weakens discipline. Each time you postpone what you know you should do, you break trust with yourself. Self-respect erodes when actions do not match intentions. Over time, this creates internal conflict, frustration, and self-doubt. Acting immediately, even in small ways, strengthens discipline and restores confidence. It reminds you that you are capable of directing your life. The cost of delay is rarely immediate, which makes it dangerous. The consequences appear later as unrealized potential, missed growth, and unfulfilled goals. Years pass, and the weight of what could have been becomes heavier than the fear of starting ever was. Regret is the long-term price of short-term comfort. Choosing action does not mean recklessness. It means refusing to let fear, perfectionism, or comfort dictate your timeline. Starting before you feel ready is often the only way forward. Action creates feedback, feedback creates learning, and learning creates progress. In the end, delay kills potential because it replaces action with intention and movement with excuses. Your future is shaped by what you do now, not by what you plan to do someday. The moment you stop delaying and start acting, potential comes alive. Time does not wait, and neither should you. Your environment silently programs your standards every single day. The people you spend time with, the spaces you live in, the content you consume, and the routines you follow all shape what you consider normal, acceptable, and possible. Most people focus only on mindset, but ignore environment, not realizing that even the strongest mindset eventually bends to constant exposure. If you want higher standards, you must build an environment that demands them. Standards are not formed in isolation. They are influenced by what you repeatedly see and experience. When low-effort excuses and distractions surround you, they begin to feel normal. You unconsciously lower expectations for yourself, not because you want to fail, but because your environment teaches you what to tolerate. In contrast, a disciplined, focused, and purpose-driven environment raises standards naturally. You begin to expect more from yourself without forcing motivation. People are one of the strongest environmental forces. The attitudes, habits, and ambitions of those around you shape your behavior. If you are surrounded by people who complain, delay action, or settle for less, those behaviors slowly become acceptable to you. On the other hand, being around disciplined, focused individuals challenges you to rise. You adopt higher standards simply by proximity because effort and growth become the norm rather than the exception. Your physical space also influences your standards. A cluttered, chaotic environment encourages distraction and low energy. It signals to the mind that disorder is acceptable. A clean, organized, and intentional space promotes clarity, discipline, and focus. When your surroundings reflect order and purpose, your actions begin to align with that standard. Small changes, like organizing your workspace or limiting distractions, create a powerful shift in behavior. Digital environment matters just as much. Constant exposure to negativity, comparison, and meaningless content lowers mental standards. Scrolling endlessly trains the brain to seek instant gratification and avoid effort. Curating what you watch, read, and listen to is an act of self-respect. When your digital input supports learning, growth, and discipline, your standards rise naturally. You begin to value depth over noise and progress over entertainment. Environment also affects emotional standards. If chaos, drama, or disrespect are common around you, emotional instability feels normal. When you choose calm, respectful, and focused environments, emotional control becomes the standard. You react less, think more clearly, and preserve energy for what matters. This emotional stability compounds into better decisions and stronger relationships. Importantly, you have more control over your environment than you think. You may not control everything, but you can choose who you spend time with, what you consume, and how you structure your day. Each choice reinforces or weakens your standards. Designing your environment intentionally is not avoidance, it is strategy. It reduces resistance and makes discipline easier to maintain. Over time, environment becomes identity. What you repeatedly tolerate becomes who you become. High standards are sustained not by constant willpower, but by surroundings that support them. When your environment demands focus, effort, and growth, discipline becomes automatic. In the end, your environment shapes your standards, and your standards shape your future. Change the environment, and you change what you accept. Raise what feels normal, and you raise your life. Build surroundings that challenge you, support growth, and demand your best, and higher standards will follow naturally. Real confidence is not loud, arrogant, or performative. It is quiet, grounded, and rooted in truth. At the core of this kind of confidence lies self-honesty. Without self-honesty, confidence is fragile and dependent on approval, success, or illusion. When you are honest with yourself, you build a foundation that cannot easily be shaken because it is based on reality rather than fantasy. Self-honesty begins with the courage to see yourself clearly. This means acknowledging strengths without exaggeration and weaknesses without denial. Many people avoid this clarity because it feels uncomfortable. They would rather protect their ego than confront the truth. However, avoiding truth does not create confidence. It creates insecurity. Deep down, you know when you are pretending, and that inner conflict erodes self-trust. When you are honest with yourself, you stop wasting energy on self-deception. You no longer need to maintain false narratives or justify poor habits. This frees mental and emotional space. Confidence grows when your inner world is aligned, when what you think, say, and do are consistent. This alignment creates stability. You trust yourself because you are not lying to yourself. Self-honesty also strengthens discipline. When you admit where you are lacking, excuses lose their power. You stop blaming circumstances, people, or luck. Instead, you take responsibility. Responsibility is empowering. It shifts you from victim to architect of your life. This sense of control builds genuine confidence because you know progress depends on your actions, not on external validation. Another powerful effect of self-honesty is resilience. When you are honest about failure, you learn faster. You do not collapse when things go wrong because your confidence is not tied to being perfect. You accept mistakes as feedback, not as proof of inadequacy. This mindset allows you to recover quickly, adjust, and move forward stronger. Confidence rooted in truth does not break under pressure. Self-honesty improves relationships as well. When you are honest with yourself, you are less defensive and less reactive. You can accept feedback without feeling threatened. You communicate more clearly and set healthier boundaries. This creates respect both from others and from yourself. You no longer need to impress or manipulate because your self-worth is not dependent on approval. Importantly, self-honesty does not mean harsh self-criticism. It means accurate self-assessment combined with self-respect. You can acknowledge flaws while still valuing yourself. This balance is what separates confidence from arrogance and humility from weakness. You grow because you see clearly, not because you hate yourself into improvement. Time, self-honesty builds an unshakable inner core. You know who you are, where you stand, and what needs to change. This clarity removes anxiety and indecision. You move with purpose because you are not confused about your reality. Others sense this stability. It is not something you have to announce, it is something you embody. In the end, self-honesty is real confidence because it creates self-trust, clarity, and resilience. When you stop lying to yourself, you stop fearing exposure. There is nothing to protect, nothing to prove. You stand firmly in truth, and that truth becomes your strength. Pressure does not create character, it reveals it. When life is calm and predictable, it is easy to appear confident, disciplined, and strong. Anyone can perform well when conditions are comfortable. The true test comes when stress rises, time is limited, expectations are high, and consequences are real. In those moments, pressure strips away pretense and exposes who you really are beneath habits, excuses, and image. Under pressure, your automatic behaviors surface. You no longer have the luxury of overthinking or pretending. What you have practiced, tolerated, and reinforced shows up instantly. If you have built discipline, clarity, and self-control, pressure sharpens you. If you have avoided responsibility, relied on comfort, or ignored weaknesses, pressure exposes those gaps without mercy. This is why pressure feels uncomfortable. It forces honesty. Pressure reveals your relationship with fear. Some people freeze, panic, or look for someone else to blame. Others focus, adapt, and move forward. The difference is not talent or intelligence, it is preparation and mindset. Those who have trained themselves to stay calm under stress use pressure as fuel. Those who have avoided discomfort see pressure as a threat. Pressure amplifies whatever's already inside you. It also exposes your discipline. When motivation disappears, only habits remain. Under pressure, you cannot rely on inspiration or emotion. You fall back on routines and standards. If your discipline is strong, you execute even when tired, uncertain, or afraid. If it is weak, excuses rise quickly. Pressure does not ask what you intend to do. It demands what you are capable of doing right now. Pressure reveals values as well. When stakes are high, you choose what truly matters. Integrity, responsibility, and resilience either guide your actions or disappear. Some people compromise principles to escape discomfort, while others hold firm despite risk. These choices define character more than words ever could. Pressure clarifies priorities with brutal honesty. Emotionally, pressure shows how well you regulate yourself. Do you react impulsively or respond with control? Do you allow stress to dictate behavior, or do you manage your inner state deliberately? Emotional discipline is often invisible in calm moments, but under pressure, it becomes impossible to hide. The ability to stay composed is a sign of inner strength built over time. Pressure also reveals preparation. Confidence under stress is not arrogance, it is familiarity. When you have practiced in difficult conditions, pressure feels manageable. When you have avoided challenge, even small stress feels overwhelming. This is why intentionally seeking discomfort is powerful. It prepares you for moments when pressure is unavoidable. Training under pressure turns chaos into clarity. Importantly, pressure is not the enemy. It is feedback. It shows you where you are strong and where you need growth. Avoiding pressure only delays this understanding. Facing it accelerates development. Every high-pressure moment is an opportunity to refine character, strengthen discipline, and deepen self-awareness. In the end, pressure reveals who you really are, not who you wish to be. It removes illusions and demands authenticity. When you learn to face pressure with honesty, control, and resilience, it becomes a tool rather than a threat. Pressure does not define you, but how you respond to it does. True strength is not built in comfort, applause, or easy moments. It is forged through honesty, discipline, and pressure. Throughout this journey, one truth becomes clear. Growth begins the moment you stop running from reality and start facing it directly. Self-honesty gives you clarity, environment shapes your standards, and pressure exposes the work you have or have not done. These principles are not separate, they are deeply connected, and together they define who you become. When you choose honesty over ego, you gain real confidence. When you design your environment instead of adapting to it, your standards rise naturally. And when pressure arrives, as it always does, it reveals the strength of your habits, your mindset, and your character. Pressure does not lie. It shows you where you stand and who you truly are when excuses are stripped away. This is not about appearing strong, it is about becoming strong. It is about building discipline when no one is watching, raising standards when no one is forcing you, and staying composed when everything feels uncertain. Growth is not comfortable, but comfort has never created greatness. Every challenge you face is an invitation to step into a stronger version of yourself. In the end, the goal is not perfection, it is progress with integrity. Face yourself honestly, build an environment that demands your best, and welcome pressure as a teacher. Do this consistently, and confidence will no longer be something you seek, it will be something you embody.